Everybody, this is Perch. There's the news today that IDW has signed an exclusive agreement with Penguin Random House. It's almost identical to the Marvel agreement. Now, this one has a little bit more time to it. I believe that it kicks in June of 2022. So there's a basically, let's see, 8 months and change. Is that about right? About 8 months, and a little bit more than that. If I'm reading this correctly. And it will be like the Marvel agreement in that Diamond can continue to carry IDW books, just like they can continue to carry Marvel books. So basically, Diamond is receiving them from Penguin Random House, and then they will kind of wholesale off to retailers. So I know a couple of people have been confused on that topic, but Diamond can still offer Marvel. The problem becomes, what is your incentive if you're a comic shop to do this? You're getting free shipping, and Penguin Random House is making incredibly clear, including opening up additional warehouses and basically distribution capabilities. They're also putting their money where their mouth is, really ramping up marketing. So one of the things I haven't seen mentioned on the web is that if you're a small comic shop, you have already started to receive way more conversation, notification, information from Penguin Random House than you have from Diamond in probably the last year. And that's very significant. It's especially significant given, as we've talked about on this channel, the ways that a lot of the publishers seem to flub the marketing or struggle with it. I suspect it will take anywhere from 6 months to a year to fully get baked, but it feels like Penguin Random House is going to be a little bit more responsive in terms of shipping delays and what's going on with the comics, and just kind of giving retailers information they need to know logistically to just do their job. And of course, Penguin Random House has a lot of experience with this, so they're able to scale. This is not a new capability for them. The new part is basically reaching out into the direct market and getting a foothold in all of those shops. And for Penguin Random House, that's highly attractive. People have commented about, well, wait a minute, who cares about the dying direct market? Well, Penguin Random House sells product into retail locations by adding the direct market. Even though a lot of these places are small, they know, like, people who listen to this channel knows, the direct market's going to shift to become more of an exclusive center. You're going to have to be a little bit more customer focused. Right now, the battle for retail space, if you're a big distributor, if you're somebody like a Penguin Random House, you want all the available options you can. You're going to win more on volume than focus. And so being able to bring all these things in is highly valuable and highly strategic, and they're able to scale in a way that Diamond couldn't, simply because they've been building up their infrastructure for how they talk to bookstores for quite some time. So now they add IDW to the mix. So this is Marvel and IDW, and it is now all but a certainty that we are going to see additional publishers go the same route. We will see, Image, I think, is going to be one of the last holdouts due to the relationship between Eric Stevenson and Jeppy and kind of how they view. And Image kind of prides itself on having this almost old school, loyal kind of stance with shops. But I think I will put hard money down that within the next 90 days, we'll see Boom move over, and we'll start to see more and more move over as well. It's going to happen. At this point, the benefits to the publisher are just dramatic, and it's going to make less and less sense. IDW was working under an expired contract. Apparently, it had evaporated, and so they're working on, for lack of a better term, this isn't 100% accurate, but basically kind of month-to-month terms. And it made it easy for them. I think the question mark for Diamond right now, and I'd be fascinated to know, is how many other publishers are working on expired contracts. I've heard there's a few. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. But how many are coming up? And what is Diamond doing right now to entice publishers to stick with them? The question mark becomes, after losing Marvel and knowing that IDW is in an expired contract and could, in theory, flip at any moment, what was Diamond doing to, basically convince IDW to re-up, to re-sign? Were they doing anything? And I'm sharply reminded of the whole, drama surrounding DC when DC did, was it UCS and Lunar? And a big portion of that was, I mean, they were dating back to, meetings from 5 and 10 years prior, where DC was going to Diamond saying, your operation is outdated. There's major problems here. We need you to improve. We need you to enhance. And Diamond more or less ignored that and just, kept doing what they're doing. And finally, hit a breaking point with COVID, and DC bailed. And the strange part is, I mean, if we look back to, when was it, March of last year? So it's been almost a year and a half now. What has Diamond done to secure their business? Based on the IDW news, it does not sound like much. So basically, they allowed a repeat of the Marvel situation, in some ways a repeat of the DC situation to occur. I continue to talk to other shops, and I've got very good friends who continue to cite late packages, damaged goods, stuff coming in from Diamond that's broken, and so it kind of, you scratch your head a little bit to say, I mean, operationally, in the midst of this pandemic and losing now the two major publishers, Marvel and DC, maybe their hands are tied a little bit in terms of just the capital it needed to make the changes they need to make, but still there's some operational things that you would think are not really expensive, but just have to shift, have to change, and they didn't. And why? I think that leads to a very uncomfortable result, or an uncomfortable conclusion that we have to look at this point, which is, what exactly happens to Diamond? I think that there's, if this isn't one of those alarmist videos like they're going to fold tomorrow. They're not going to fold tomorrow, but the path to success looks smaller and smaller. It's similar to, if you've ever watched the elections, the presidential election. Basically, the presidents, the votes are coming in and they're winning states. Because of the Electoral College, it's not just a count up all the votes. It's you win a state and then, you start to amass electoral votes. And if you've watched the elections, you see this bit where they talk about the path to victory. And like in this last election, as Biden picked up some key states, I'm not going to wade into the controversy of whether he really did or not. But as they report he picked up states, they would say this line of, the path to victory for Donald Trump is getting narrower and narrower. He has to basically win, certain things in order to win, to be president. And a similar, you could use a very similar line of thought here now for Diamond. The path for them to be successful and sustainable is getting smaller. They have to bank on the fact that a bunch of comic shops will ignore the various operational issues, shipping issues, damaged product, in favor of staying with them, which, previously, comic shops had to stick with Diamond because, they were getting Image Comics, they're getting a lot of other comics from Diamond. They weren't going through Penguin Random House. When Marvel went to Penguin Random House, comic shops had a choice of basically getting one shipment from Diamond or two shipments from Penguin and Diamond, because they needed those other comics. But the problem is, as more and more groups, as now IDW goes over to Penguin Random House, it's just going to be harder and harder for Diamond to convince people to say, just work with us. It's too much, it's too noisy to work. And they're still pushing that. I got a mail basically kind of pushing the same logic of, it's easier for you to have one throat to choke, as they say, one distributor to deal with rather than two. The challenge is when that one distributor is moving things late, or there's damaged product, or there's very haphazard communication. It makes it harder to make that argument. And at this point, when Penguin Random House starts shipping things for Marvel in October, it's a hold your breath moment for Diamond, because what they have to be hoping for is that the Penguin Random House shipments are just effed up. They come in and the boxes are trashed and they're late and they just screw it all up. But the odds of that happening are incredibly low, because Penguin Random House has been doing this for their books and their other products for a long time. And it's just very unlikely that they're going to suddenly drop the ball on this new initiative that's so strategically valuable for them. So that's where we get to the path to victory for diamond is getting smaller and smaller. They basically have to hope that Penguin Random House does such a poor job when they start shipping marble that retailers will be willing to basically pay more money because it's going to cost more to work through diamond. There's very interesting articles. I still sort of see some people talking about this, what is kind of a very optimistic way of looking at it, slash just not true at all, which is this narrative that smaller shops will benefit from Penguin Random House, but larger shops will not. And the basis behind that is that Diamond was giving special discounts, special deals to the larger shops. And those aren't going to be completely replicated by Penguin Random House, except those larger deals were often predicated on a number of kind of other things, and even the larger shops cannot afford to have damaged merchandise and deal with the logistics. So again, what Diamond needs to have happen in order to kind of survive and grow through this is a rejection of Penguin Random House. Basically, all the retailers, all the shops decide to stick with Diamond, despite it being more expensive and the problems with shipping. So they need for that to fail. They need for basically somehow, some way to prevent more bleeding. They need to convince the publishers they still have, like Image, like Boom, and others, not to go anywhere. And that's going to be hard to do at this point, because all eyes are going to be on watching this rollout. If Penguin Random House can bring their marketing arm and some logistical help to Marvel or to IDW, if IDW starts looking stronger because there's better communication to the shops and the comics are being highlighted better. And the crazy part is, it's almost certain. So this is the other thing a lot of the publishers are going to be thinking about. It's almost certain that IDW will benefit out of this, because when a retailer goes and picks up their order or their catalog, they're basically going to be presented with but basically Marvel and IDW. So it catapults IDW higher up in attention span. They're not going to be dealing with 30 publishers. They're going to be dealing with 2. And for a period of time, and this is going to be the thought that settles into the retailers' minds, the publishers' minds, is, wait a minute, do I want to be a big holdout and keep working just through Diamond and basically give away an opportunity to have more attention? Right now, publishers name their companies things that, the name of their company starts with A, so they're at the front of the Diamond catalog. Well, right now, you've got Marvel and IDW. There's only 2. The value of the front of the catalog is kind of gone. So anyone who moves over is going to get more attention to their product for a period of time until more people filter in there, and nobody will want to be last. So it's this. Unfortunately, it's just a kind of a grim picture, I think, right now for Diamond. I think that they're definitely hurting, and there's too many question marks here. The biggest one, like I mentioned earlier, is when DC moved, why weren't changes made? And when Marvel moved, why weren't changes made? And so you read Jeppy's statement on IDW leaving, and it reads like somebody, I'm sorry to say, just very out of touch. It doesn't read like somebody who's just lost, they're the two biggest publishers in the U.S. and one of the bigger indies. It reads like somebody who still is kind of hanging on to this idea that, comic shops will say, "Oh, I'm willing to pay more because of loyalty, because Diamond's been doing this for a while." That's not that only works to a point. So anyway, that's kind of the news, some analysis of what's gone on here. Unfortunately, the question mark is if can Diamond survive as just a wholesaler kind of middleman? Unfortunately, the answer is no if they don't provide some value. The worst case scenario to be in is to say, well, we're in the middle and you can work with us, but the experience, the pricing, the marketing, the everything you get is no different or worse than just going direct with Penguin Random House. If that's where they land, then it's game over. Nobody will stick with that. So it's an interesting time. I I think Diamond has to be. I mean, on one hand, they may be in a position where they're going to sell, but even there, their value, what they could command from a sale of their company is dropping every time somebody leaves them. Right at this point, the absolute death is if Image decides to bail. They're screwed. So I mean, for whatever else they're doing, I hope that they're maintaining that relationship for their own good. But it's a crazy place to be. I you know Again, the path to victory is really thin right now. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. I mean, and again, granted, Diamond has had a bad rep for a long time. So, I mean, the other unfortunate place they find themselves is like, who's cheering for them to be successful here? Like, they burned so much goodwill. And there's some very good people over at Diamond, by the way. I think there's some very fine people over there, who work hard and tireless. They're good people, but as a company, like, they're behind the eight ball for sure. Anyway, thanks for listening.